We have a new top favorite star on my channel. He got more views than anybody else in the last, I don't know, 60, 90 days, the last time we had Brian White on. So if you like having Brian White on, tell him so, not only by views, but hitting the like button over there and the subscribe button and the notify button so that you'll know when he's going to be on over and over again. Brian, I don't know why you're so popular. I can only guess it has to do with your looks.
Ah, I'm so beautiful.
It's that, or it could be, I don't know. What do you think? Just brainier than the other Brian. You think that's it?
Maybe. I think it's the selection of topics. You've got always got great topics for me to discuss that happen to be things that I know very well.
Well, speaking of things that you know more about than probably most folks out there, I have been quite anxious, actually, about Mexico. I said this to Herbert the other day. I said, okay, my recollection was on March 1, we were told permits by the end of March. We were told turning a spade of dirt on June 1. And this is June 2 when we're recording this. I'm not sure when it'll be showing, but it's June 2 when we're recording it. I haven't seen any spades of dirt being turned. I haven't even heard anything about permits 100% supplied. Tell us what's going on down in Mexico.
So I have been continuing my quest to find a drone pilot. I am close once again. I've got some help that has shown up to get me some better leads on that front. But in terms of what's actually going on, there's a lot to plan. We know the holdup isn't necessarily permits. They're definitely fast-tracked. Mexico is very motivated to make this happen. But what is the factory even going to be? What is its capacity going to be? How many cars are we talking about? I will answer, but I would first like to hear your theory. How many cars do you think they're going to produce?
So based again, I try to do all of my dots, connecting all of my dots 100% based on what Elon or his team have actually said.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then, speculating, little interpolation, extrapolation from there. It looks to me like 4 million is
It looks,
the
yeah,
ultimate goal.
I agree. So the stated goal is like 1 million. And we know that's ridiculous because
Right.
the current nameplate capacity for Berlin and Texas is 250,000. And we know those are million car factories.
Right.
They're not million car factories yet. Tom Jew said, was very careful with his choice of words. He said installed capacity is 250,000 in Texas. And that's true until lines 2 and 3 come on. That's the capacity. They're not installed all the way. We know Mexico is going to be a bigger factory, and we know it's going to be a faster factory. All the pieces are there. If it's under 2 million, I'll be very surprised. I believe internally the target is going to be 4 million. And if you think about that, yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
well, and you have to think about also what are they going to be making there and what are the markets they're going to be selling to. And when you take into consideration that the primary vehicle that they want to make there is not Model 3, the third generation or the $25,000 vehicle or the Model 2 or whatever name you want to give it, the TAM on that is massive. And in particular, I would think this will be a very good seller throughout all the Americas. And not only that, but also for some exports that are best served by a U.S. or a Western factory. I think the 4 million might even end up over time. It could even be greater than 4 million. The other thing I think for maybe we should mention is that it was not only the speed will be faster, but the footprint will be smaller to make these cars than it is for the existing cars. So in both of those would say they're planning to make more cars if the factory's actually going to be larger. I don't know.
Yeah, the footprint per car will be reduced.
Right.
Because we already know how that happens with the structural design. just with the front and rear castings. That already shortens the production line. If it doesn't have paint, which it looks like they want it to not have paint, that would shorten the line. And the unboxed method is is a very good way to simplify everything. So the number 4 million is pretty outrageous, because the Model Y just barely became the world's best-selling model, and you're telling me that this car from one factory is going to be making 2-3 times as many? Yes, that's what I'm telling you. This isn't designed to replace. This is designed to replace the Corolla and the Civic and every other compact car. And if you add all of them together, it's outrageous. And it's got cost advantages other factories can't touch. You can't make a mega casting if you're only going to make 100,000, 200,000 cars. It doesn't make sense. And if you're going to be changing your model each year by this much, if you need new castings, you can't do it. It's not cost effective. These have to be amortized over a lot of units, or it doesn't make sense. So the competition's going to be stuck with these low volume, difficult to manufacture vehicles, where Mexico is going to go gangbusters on one very simple design, and they may add additional designs. I still believe that Mexico's compact car is going to become a one from each design center kind of car, where once we've got, all you have to do is make sure the battery and the castings fit within your form factor, and you can make a compact, a hatchback, a little city car, anything you want. There's no reason it can't have a 2-door and a 4-door version, just like we used to see a lot of in, the 60s and 70s, where they'd use the same platform for quite a few different cars of different shapes. The Thunderbird is a good example. That was a very big car with 2 doors. But it wouldn't be 50 cars. It would be great to have one specific to each market. The demands for Europe are different from the demands of Latin America, from North America, and from China. Now, the China and developing markets may have quite a bit of overlap, but great. Make them available in both. Because 4 million is an awful lot to try and put in the hands of customers. You need to find a lot of customers. But if you can make an electric car with reasonable range, over 200 miles, which I'm sure they would, at at that price, with those specs, it doesn't have to be the hottest performing car, though I'm sure they'd make a dual motor version to sell to the US and other developed markets. It's going to move like crazy.
Now, Brian, you haven't yet even talked about a full self-driving without a wheel.
No.
The no wheel, no pedal version. Wouldn't that be made there as well?
I think any of the cars could be made as a no wheel, no pedal version. You just remove the wheel and the pedals. And I think the executives are reining Elon in on his ambitions to build a car without a wheel. I believe that. I heard a rumor from somebody I was on a show with who said, it might have been Herbert, saying, I think that when Elon was making the 3, he wanted to make it without a wheel, and they said, holy smokes, you're off your rocker, we're not that close. And they had to pull him back. Because the 3, as I recall, I may be mistaken, was originally going to be drive-by-wire, and they abandoned that. And I think it's not going to be drive-by-wire until FSD is level 5, because they want the redundancy, in part for safety, and in part for peace of mind for the people who don't fully understand the safety. There are drive-by-wire cars out there, right. But not very many. And they're currently not necessarily filling a demand in the market that really exists.
Brian, the other one you didn't list on that list was a small pickup truck. It seems to me that throughout the Latin American countries, the small pickup truck is kind of a big deal. Do you see a small pickup truck on the same platform?
Can you name for me a small pickup that's currently in production?
Oh, I know nothing about trucks. So
I can help you on that.
Okay.
Everyone says they want a small pickup. They don't buy them. They won't
Oh,
buy them. So small pickups are the worst sellers. So the market has spoken. Sometimes the customer doesn't always know what they want. In Latin America, I've seen a lot of small pickups, but they're old. Those aren't small pickups; those are cheap pickups. That's what they can get.
I see.
So that's filling a very different thing. What I think would be more likely is a compact van, like a
Yes.
minivan. I think that there's a strong demand for that. There's also, of course, a strong demand for the larger van, and I don't know where they would build it, but that would not only be for deliveries, not only for RV conversions, but also for the boring tunnel. They still need a shuttle for that can hold more than 2 or 3 people. So I think that would be valuable as well.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, what about the timing, though? All right. You've told us what they're going to build and how many, but are you hearing anything at all, or is there just no rumors, no nothing? I can't find any news at all about progress on putting a shovel in the ground.
That is exactly what I'm hearing is a whole lot of nothing. There's last we heard, there were preliminary permits that had been filed, and if that's the case, they've either been approved or will be any day, but that does not appear to be what's holding it back. In terms of timeline, I know Tom said he wants to build it faster than Shanghai. That's an aspiration. It's not going to happen. It would take this factory is so much larger than the first phase of Shanghai. Now, if he means phase 1 plus phase 2 of Shanghai, that was a 2-year project. Can it be done in less than 2 years? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because they did 2 of them consecutive. Now, they did do phase 2 of Shanghai in a year, which is still substantial, a good over 5 million square feet, but of multi-level construction. But I still think that's more aspirational, and I don't know. I think that would really put the supply chain and the logistics into a crunch that they may not be able to manage. But Tesla, a factory doesn't have to be complete in order to begin production. They can start with that stuff kind of whenever. And
Yeah, I know they did that in Berlin, so we're going to assume that they'll do it wherever. But and they'll also start building before necessarily they have all their permits in place, as long as that government says it's on you, like they did in Berlin. I assume both of those will happen.
I assume the same thing. Why would and the odds? I don't know if you've been to Mexico, but I'm not sure how many permits are not approved in Mexico.
Yeah.
These are, if it's built to Tesla's standards, it would be a matter of simple rework where, you believed this many outlets per linear foot is what's appropriate, but we require something, things like that, very easy fixes. Berlin had some pretty significant fixes they had to address, and they did. No problem. I mean, problem, but
Yes, yeah.
a solvable
Yes,
problem.
yes, yes.
So they can get through that. So Mexico, I think we're going to see first production not in the middle of 24, but maybe in early 25 at the earliest.
Wow.
I think early 25 at the earliest, but it could even be late 25.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a because I'm the optimist of optimists, and I was putting it down for production about this time next year. So
I think that would be overly optimistic. I do have ways to find out better information. I have a source who can see car parts orders and
yeah.
might be willing to share with me the information when it becomes available. But I can see things from that, like I was able to see that Lucid was dead and stopping their production 16 weeks before it became public knowledge because they canceled all their parts orders. Don't need parts.
Yeah.
So if I can see those parts going out, I can get a pretty good picture. But that will require a little bit of careful consideration in order to maintain that relationship in a way that doesn't come back to bite either of us in the butt.
So have you thought at all about the different locations that are potentially going to be the next Gigafactory? Is that something that's been on your list of to-dos, analyzing all the possibilities and which one you think is going to be next?
That's very funny. I made a series of videos analyzing different ones. I've looked at 24 different countries, but it was a year ago.
Are you
Interestingly,
up to date in your mind? Are you up
yeah.
to date to be? Well, then guess what? We're going to hold that off until our next interview with you. And that's what we're going to talk about next, is the next location, because I have some strong feelings about it, but I'll let you talk sometimes. Okay. Hey,
Great.
Listen. Okay. So if you like having Brian on the channel, whether it's because he's funny or because he's funny looking, hit the like button. And then if you would like to make sure that you never miss it when Brian's on, that's what that notification button's for. And I understand you have to hit subscribe before you can hit notify. And then Brian is everywhere. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's on Twitter. He's got a Patreon. Where else can they find you, Brian? Is there anything else? Is that it? Just that list?
Down on the street corner, I've got a cardboard sign.
Of course you do. Anyway, so follow both of us everywhere there is to follow us. All that information will be down in the information below. And hey, Brian, thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure as always, Randy.
And for those of you out there, it's been great talking to you.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.